Let's time for us to get into the papers now. Dr. Kwame Asante is a political scientist at the University of Ghana. He's joining us, as well as Suleiman Brahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. And in studio, we have Mr. Phil Money, former president of the GJA, and then Sami Krab is former second vice chair of the New Patriotic Party. Mr. Money, good morning to you.
Good morning.
That's all as well.
By His grace, the grace is keeping us.
Yeah, grace at play. Go on to you, gentlemen, on Zoom.
Good morning, Kojo.
Very good morning, and how are you?
I'm fine. To my sister Emefa, and then my president, as well as my colleagues who are also on Zoom for this program.
All right, thank you. So let's do what we do always. Give you a maximum of 2 minutes to give us your reflection before we get into the papers. I see Suleiman Brahima on the screen now. So we'll start with you, Mr. Brahima. Hello, Mr. Brahima. I think we have you on the screen, so I wanted to start with you in terms to bring us your reflection before we get into the papers. Okay, let me bring in Dr. Kwame Asante. Doc, Doc, let me start with you.
All right. We'll look at NIMOS and their activities over the weekend. I want to take this opportunity to, as it were, praise NIMOS for a good work done. But I'll come to that in detail. We should know as a society that this country is being governed by rules and regulations. And the president has a duty to ensure that the laws that we've made work and they work for the perfection of our society. On that score, we will commend the effort of government to put in this team, that is NIMOS, to fight the menace of what? Galamsey activities in our country. What is of worry to me is the interruption, the interference by people, some people of this country, that last week or last weekend we saw that NIMOS in their lawful activity trying to what? Protect the society, defend water bodies, defend the forest, and then carry out the mandate of the president as given by law. They were under attack, they were being threatened, and all that. I watched a lot of the videos online, and I was so surprised that we as a society could stoop that low, and then people who have been given the mandate to do lawful duty were under threat and under attack. That is unfortunate. That is unfortunate. We as a society must rise up and rally behind NIMOS to carry out its mandates and carry it to the letter. I saw some of the threats. You see some of the youth, a certain gentleman, saying that when you see NIMOS or any of the security people, shoot him and all that. Come on. Is that how the country has gotten to? But I know that is not my country. And those, elements within our society, the security by now should extend invitation to them so that they can have a conversation. 2, I want to also commend NIMOS that in spite of the threat and the provocation and the attack, they were very professional. And I salute them with all humility and with all respect. I salute them. We will urge them to continue the good fight.
All right.
And we will follow them the way they want to be followed and supported. But I want to send a message to the youth in those areas who are threatening NIMOS and their activity that look, they are protecting them. They are protecting the environment, and that they should not take the professionalism of NIMOS for granted.
Okay.
It will not help anybody. I want to send out caution to them.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Kwame Asante. Let me bring in Mr. Sammy Crab. I think the first time I'm having him on the show. If I don't know if you've had him on the show before. You have, okay. All right. Okay.
So please proceed.
Okay, so Mr. Crab, we'll give you maximum of 2 minutes to tell us what you think is something that you've always desired to talk about before we even get into the papers.
I think I'm going to continue from where Doc left off. I've always desired to talk about galamsey and the damage that it's doing to our environment. It's just devastating. When I see the rivers, flowing and the colors of the river, the turbidity levels, it's just amazing. It's marks of recklessness. And I'm thinking that this transcends governments because this galamsey problem did not start yesterday. And governments have actually failed in protecting Ghanaians. And it is our duty to stand up. And I'm really, really happy that the government is focusing on attacking this galamsey issue. Yes, but we still have to complain. You know, it's amazing that if somebody promises you something, doesn't mean that you should not be reminding the person. So the president promised that he was going to get rid of galamsey. We are going to continue to remind him and to push them and to put a lot of pressure on them until this menace goes away. It's a disgrace to our country.
Okay.
It shows that we do not even care for the future of this country. And those who are perpetuating this, especially those who are attacking the authorities, people who have included the authority to deal with it, must be dealt with. A war, in my view, must be declared on galamsey. It's an existential threat, and we should not take it as a joke. The president should not be spared any room. We should put pressure on the president. We're only helping him to deliver to us what he promised that he was going to deliver to us. This is not partisan. This is an existential threat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crab. I don't know if Mr. Brimer is ready with us. We can take his reflection before we come into the studio. Mr. Brimer. Okay, all right. Let's come to the studio.
Mine is to reinforce the sentiments expressed by the flag bearer of journalism and academia, Dr. Asante.
Okay.
In PM, image is everything. And Ghana's image is touted nationally and internationally as a beacon of democratic accomplishments in Africa and rule of law. And this image is bleeding profusely as a result of the senseless attacks against Naimal's team in Fidium. We ought to do everything humanly possible to stanch the blood flow and to ensure that the rule of law works. And we can do so by going into the bottom of this matter and applying the law furiously, rigorously, and mercilessly. So the perpetrators will know that you cannot take the law into your own hands, inflict mayhem, go away with your wickedness.
Yeah.
So this is my view.
Thank you very much. Let's get into the papers now. MFA, would you want to start or shoot?
Please proceed.
Okay. Now, I want us to go into the Daily Guide newspaper, page 6. It says 2020-2024 election violence. Police, military linked to 7 deaths. And according to the stories, and it's written by Ebenezer K. Amponsa, a special team tasked by the government to investigate the circumstances that led to the violence and deaths of some individuals during the 2020 and 2024 general elections have identified military and police personnel as responsible for cases resulting in the deaths of 7 people. Minister for Interior Muntaka Mubarak, who reviewed this during the presentation, said 4 of the deaths are traceable to the use of a firearm by armed police patrol teams, while 3 of the cases resulting in the deaths of 3 people are attributed to military personnel. 21 suspects have so far been identified in connection with the election-related violence that occurred during the 2020 and 2024 elections, which resulted in the deaths of 15 people with 40 others injured. Now, when you get to the custodian, they break it down further. Techiman, that's Bono, Techiman South, in Bono East, we have 2 deaths, 9 injuries. Odorodiodio, this is for the 2020 election. 2 deaths, 15 injuries. Ablikuma Central, Greater Accra, 1 death, 4 injuries. Banda in Bono, 1 death, 2 injuries. Doma West, Bono, 1 death, 1 injury. Savelegu in the Northern Region, 1 death, 3 injuries. In 2024, Ewutu Senya Central, 1 death, 1 injury. Tolo Northern, 1 death. Damango Savannah, 1 death. In Kwanza South, in Bono, 1 death. Offenso North, in Ashanti, 2 deaths, 2 injuries. I have Ano South, I have Ano Southwest. In Ashanti, 1 death, 3 injuries. Someone, let me start from you. Now, in 2020, when it happened, we spoke about it. We thought that things would change. But if you look at the numbers we've been given for 2024, nothing really changed. And now we're being told that, military and police have been linked to 7 of the deaths. How should this guide our forward march such that we don't record these again in any future election?
Because in the first, let me point out that the 15 are not mere statistics. They are human beings created in the image of God. And it took the recklessness of people who were supposed to guide, prevent life, to ensure the untimely deaths of the 15. You pointed out that we don't learn as a nation from our past mistakes. Many years ago, the famous French lawyer, Michel Montaigne, said, and I quote, "I learn little from good examples, but more from bad examples, which serve as daily lessons." Unfortunately, the bad lessons do not serve as daily lessons. They have not served as lessons to us as a nation. To the sense that in every election year, we perpetrate mayhem, we kill innocent, we shed innocent blood, kill people. Violence elections and elections do not belong to the same sentence. Elections are about ballots, not bullets. But we know the tensions we characterize our elections. Some of the tensions are so high. And to the extent that, when tensions exceed a certain limit, the little thing can trigger violence. And once violence starts, nobody can tell where it will end. So the best thing is to stop violence from happening at all.
That means we need to understand what brings about the tension, right?
Exactly. And the point ought to be made that every election induces its own tensions. But there should be a limit. If you allow high voltage tensions to characterize our elections, red hot temper, the do and die mentality, win at all costs approach, then this will all crystallize tensions. And once tensions come, no one can tell how it will end. So this calls for education. Education. Unfortunately, NCC is so financially disabled, so resource poor, that it cannot undertake its constitutional mandate of educating the Ghanaian populace that elections are just about settling the leadership question. And then life continues. Elections should not be approached as something you ought to win at all costs, otherwise you will die. So we have a long way to go, even though democratically we are touted as a beacon. But in reality, beneath the veneer of our credentials lie insidious reality of violence, of mayhem, of wickedness in its most naked nastiness. So they say the politicians will go all out to win elections at all costs. But ours is still, we are growing. No, in terms of democracy, no nation has arrived. So ours is, we are in a process, but we ought to take election education. We want to take civic education more seriously than ever before. Otherwise, 2028 will be another year of violence. And once violence starts, and and best repeating that once it starts, no one can tell how or when it will end.
Okay, all right. Let me bring in Dr. Asante now. Doc, you've covered elections and you teach politics as well. Now, we are being made to understand that the investigations have established that 3 of the cases resulting in 4 deaths are traceable to the use of firearm by armed police patrol teams. Military personnel were also found to be responsible for 3 of the cases, resulting in the deaths of 3 persons. What lessons or learning should Ghana derive from this?
Has not learned anything from electoral violence. Let me say it now here, that when we talk about free and fair election, we are talking about election devoid of irregularities, such as what? Violence, rigging, and the rest of them. So once we go on that trajectory that we want to have a free and fair election, we must do everything possible to educate people about what? Free and fair election, that it doesn't call for violence, and that you don't need to what? It's not a do or die affair, as my president said, that you win or you lose, but whoever loses, look, accept defeat and abide by the rules of the game. One of the things that have brought us this far is what? Impunity. That political actors, because of political expediency, they benefit from this. So when people commit this and they win power, they don't punish them. So people become emboldened and want to carry out this type of what? Activity all the time. Security people who are involved in this, all this time, we have seen that they are let go. You saw how 8 people were shot in the 2020 election. What has happened to that? We sat down here, we'll talk about it, but end of story. But if we as a society, we rise up and demand accountability, I'm sure we'll go this far. So we need to strengthen education on what it's a contest of ideas, and it's a contest of choice that you choose, you either win or lose, and go and prepare and come back. And 2, that violence do not have any place in election, but ideas and preferences occupy center stage. And that we also want to make sure that the state will act, that anybody who crosses the line and breach any of the laws is sanctioned to serve as deterrent to others. And then also political actors should not go and hide behind the scenes and then, as it were, incite people, encourage people to do this, only to come to office and let them go. Please, our democracy has not developed so much. We are shepherding the process, and we don't need to do anything that will bring it to its needs. We've seen examples around all over Africa, the reversals of democracy. Our country has took a nail to make sure that we have a sound democracy that will last the test of time. It is my hope and prayer that all this talk will not be just talk. We walk the talk and make sure that election violence is rooted out of our politics, and any human being, be you a politician or non-politician, if you commit any acts such as what we are talking about, appropriate punishment is visited on you.
All right. Let me bring in one of the major players in politics in Ghana, Mr. Sammy Crab. He is a former second vice chairman of the MPP. Mr. Crab, if you listen to the minister, he says the investigation has established that 4 of the cases, which resulted in 5 deaths, were recorded when party enthusiasts resorted to the use of firearm against their opponent, while 2 other cases, 2 persons who were lynched during confrontations between supporters of the 2 major political parties. Why do your supporters even go to an election ground or a campaign ground with guns And where can we, I mean, how can we start to get them to revise their strategies, to say that elections is not about brute force, but about differences in ideology?
Well, thank you. But I think we need to look at certain factors that drive people to want to do the things that they do. When people have the feeling that this is a winner takes all, I mean, this is a do or die situation, then they will die to do, if I may put it that way. We have a problem with our political system. We have a problem because it's marks of patronage. It's a winner takes all system. There's so much corruption within politics. Politics is actually seen as a way out for certain people. Okay, I get out of school, I join demonstration on the streets, I get an opportunity, I become a minister, deputy minister, a political figure, and that is a route that I am going to take to also become wealthy because of the corruption. There's also the issue of politicization of our security services. And because in the hiring process, sometimes political party, the leaders try to put in their favorites, they cajole, they push, they get the military and the police to take people who otherwise would not be qualified to be in those services. Now, the patronage system, the winner takes all system. I remember that President Kufuor once sought to, to get us to begin to think through what we have. He proposed that we abolish the vice presidency because he thought it was quite useless, and then elect a prime minister, because that would then get people to participate. Because what we have here is a situation where people are elected, and for 4 years, they know that nobody's going to take them out. Those people who are not elected know that they have to wait for 4 years. And if they don't get lucky, then it's for 8 years. By the time we get to the 8th year, they're really, really angry because they want to participate in politics, and they perceive that some people are chopping and leaving them. So we also have another issue with like assemblies. If we could elect our assemblymen, if we could elect our mayors, if we could elect our mayors, then it gives people the opportunity to also participate in the politics even before their political party gets into power, if we put it that way. For example, let's say you could have a situation where in Ashanti region, the NDC may be in government generally. The president may be NDC, but an MPP person may be either governor of Ashanti region or a mayor of Kumasi. And these things can help people get into politics and not have to wait till the 4 years or the 8 years, because it builds up and it gets them very aggressive. And because of the patronage system, because of the winner takes all, and the fact that somebody is chopping and the corruption, they want to also get there and then take their own. So I would approach it that from a way where we need to actually take a look at our political system again, and then make sure that we give people opportunity to also participate. They don't have to wait. And I think Kufuor was also suggesting that, so for example, we elect the president, and then the prime minister's election overlaps the president. So you can have a situation where the president is from the NDC, but the prime minister is from the NPP, or vice versa. And that gets everybody to participate. And it eliminates the aggression, and then the corruption will also come down.
Interesting. Let me bring in Suleiman Abrahama here. Okay, all right then. Okay. Then maybe
Mr. Moni, and would also go back to Dr. Sasanji on this question. So you hear that Mr. Sambi Krab talks about the winner takes all syndrome. You want to trace it back to really where it starts from, right? Say, the way our politics is done, from how it is financed, from the kind of campaign words that are used. Because if you describe what you have just read from the Daily Guide, it says that party enthusiasts.
Yes.
What makes a person enthusiastic about something? What they have heard, what they have been told. So the nature of our politics, really, does it invite this kind of violence that we see? Because if people are funding it, that's an investment. I don't see how you want to sit down, fold your arms, and then your investments will go down the drain. So people have said that let's find rules and regulations to maybe regulate the way our campaigns are done, the way politics is done in this country. Mr. Money, I'll come to you. If we talk about people should be educated and all of that, if we educate people, the voters, people who go to vote, and yet the system still remains, and I can see Mr. Samikwa making an allusion to that. If people are educated and yet the system remains where their financing it is not regulated, campaign words are not regulated, we'll still educate the people, but when we come back?
I totally agree with you. And the time has come more than ever to look at this issue from the root and not the branch. The branch approach is to condemn it, go to town, name and shame, and we go back and perpetrate the same evil. So I agree with you. Structurally, we need to look at what is wrong with our system. To the extent that every election year the whole country is virtually turned into a war zone. Tempests are so high, tensions beyond the roof. The desire to win at all costs dominates, overshadows everything. And I understand, because it's business. Politicians, invest bundles into elections. And when you lose, you languish in inadequacy for years until your party comes back to power.
Right.
We saw it with MPP. It took Kennedy Japan to pay the salary arrears of the party staff, party headquarters staff, because they are no more in government. But when they were in government, it was chicken feed. This tells you that being in government is the ultimate. So whatever it will take for you to be in government, be fair, foul means. So we need to go back. Take a microscopic look at what brings about all this violence. Why are people so desperate? And the level of desperation is such that anyone who stands in my way will just be eliminated.
Have to take you away.
Yeah.
Dr. Sasanti, in your readings, especially political scientists as yourself, in your readings, what really incites the violence? Is it the fact that it costs so much to get into politics, so much that people must recoup it? And if they must recoup it, they must come along with people to be able to recoup the monies that they have invested? Because I hear education. But the same question I posed to Mr. Money. If we educate the electorates, the party enthusiasts, and yet the mode and the way we do politics and our campaign here, our elections over here, will we succeed?
Yeah, I think the question is apt. Apt in the sense that if you look at what is happening, you cannot assign it to only one problem, that lack of education. Yes, one of them, but there are others, such as financing of political parties. Who are those who finance? Remember, they are not philanthropists. They are people, they put their money in there and expect results or profit. So by hook or crook, they want to get the party they funded to win power and control the resources that they can benefit from. So those people who, the financiers, and then the actors who are beneficiary of these finances will put in all manner of schemes so as to ensure that they get returns for their money. I have said time and again that if you want to win election, three things: resources, strategy, and message. Are you with me? If you look at the strategy, so the strategy is that let me get people to support me to finance the campaign, because CDD has told you, you spend over $2 million to even win as an MP, and then over 100 million as a president. Where are you getting the money from? Those who finance want to make sure that they will put in everything to win, and that leads us to trouble. The political actors themselves, if you look at all these political violence and ask yourself, who are those who commit this? Is it the cocoa seller or the wache seller or the trotro driver who are looking for their daily bread? No, the political actors fund them. and only come to pretend to us that we don't want violence. They want violence. They are the architects of violence. And this is the story. Because who are those who hide behind those boys who go and vandalize places and all that? If you trace it to the bottom, you will find that there is a political figure out there who is doing all these things. But what has also created a problem is the issue of the behavior of politicians. As soon as they come to office, those who have fallen foul of the law, because they are the apparatchiks, they have no right to punish them. So the people become emboldened and sometimes even brag in society that we did this, we did that, and what happened? We'll continue to do that. Impunity becomes the order of the day. We as a society have slept over our rights for a long time, and that we have aligned ourselves with political parties and saying that this is our tradition, this is the party that we are born into, and all that. And when these things are committed, we fail to come out and condemn and make sure that next time when there's opportunity, we throw them out of power. We glorify them with votes and they come back and we cheer them on. And so that has emboldened them to misbehave the way they do. This election violence and all that did not start today. 1992, we saw violence. We swept it under the carpet. Then we moved to 96. People started snatching ballots, boxes and all that. We saw machos being brought to election and then people complain and then they moved to guards, vigilantes, and all that. We saw how vigilantes stormed the court to misbehave there and all that. What happened to all this? The political class have not mastered the courage to deal with those things simply because they are complicit. They fund them, they are doing their bidding for them, and they are ultimate beneficiaries of their actions. So obviously, they will not punish this. But we as a society, we have a way out. The way out is that when we see them doing these things, we have to make sure that we throw them out so that they go and learn sense and they come back. Otherwise, hey, we'll talk about it. And then after election, when everything is gone, we go and sleep and then only come back for the next election for this thing to resurface and then cause mayhem in our society. That is the story we find ourselves here.
You just want to stay with him a little bit before we go to the politician. So how do you assess the posture of the minister? If you look at over the years, those who have attempted to want to punish perpetrators, per his press conference yesterday, it almost looks as though they want to seek justice for those who suffered a certain form of violence and those who as well perpetrated the violence. But it cannot be outside of the laws, right? If you recall the Ablikuma North, those who perpetrated the violence, they were convicted how much? 6,000 each. The punitive measures for people who engage in violence, is it enough deterrence? Is it enough deterrence?
No, that is one of our problems. The issue of weak state capacity. In political science, when we say state capacity, we are talking about the ability of the state to enforce its policy. One of its weaknesses is that we have regulatory capacity, which is weak. Ability to make laws and enforce them. We have the laws that regulate conduct of people within the political space. But do we have the courage of politicians to put them into effect when the need arises? And the answer is conspicuously no. Simply because they have put those people there, they benefit from the activities, and then what happens? They only punish those who are not part of their party. They are not those who are supporting their efforts. Yes, that is all that they do. So another regime will come and punish those who are not part of their their tradition. And that is what we have now. We pretend as if we are dealing with violence, but we are not. Look at recent time. We have heard suggestions to the fact that when there is a by-election, we should allow the party which has lost its MP to continue. We are running away from the problem of violence, simply because when we do that, we will not have violence. But what about the national level? What about the national level? This country, there are a lot of hypocrisy here on the part of we as a society and then political actors, that we are not able to call a spade by its name and make sure that we do the right thing. So these things, until there are a whole lot of measures that we need to do. One, behavioral change. Two, education. We are enforcing the laws, and then make sure that political actors who support these things will get them and deal with them. And then when all things fail, all that we have to do is make sure that those people who have caused us pain, we throw them away without mercy. But if we decide to shy away from any of us, I'm afraid we'll come back and then talk about the same ugly story in the next election.
Right. Kojo?
I think we should wrap with
Absolutely.
Mr. Crab.
Mr. Crab.
Yes,
okay, well,
exactly.
Mr. Crab, you're a politician, and I like engaging politicians on matters like this because then you understand it better. Let me in a bit. What's really the appetite for people who engage in violence during elections? I mean, you have been a politician, almost all of your life. Have you had to deal with any form of election violence, and how did you deal with it very fairly? What's also your assessment of the minister's posture? Dr. Sasanti is just saying that, of course, when a new party comes to power, they punish people who do not belong to their political parties. Do you see any truth in this at all?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is so. It is quite true. There's no incentive for you to punish those people who are helping you get a power. There's no incentive. And so this whole thing is quite structural. You know, I mean, if we work on the structure, it will drive the behavioral change. You know, there's absolutely no way because the motivation is so strong. What is the motivation? The motivation is that if I get into power, I get everything. If I'm out of power, then I get nothing. So that is too strong a motivation, you know, for this NCC education, all this talk about behavior. It's not going to work because the motivation, unless we structurally tackle what makes them want to do what they do. You know, as for politics, it's very competitive. It's very, very competitive. And because of the nature of our politics, as has been traced by Dr. Asanti, we have to also be militant, quote unquote, when we are in the politics. We need to protect ourselves because you cannot actually rely on the security services to protect you when you go into the polls. They all compromised. It's all been politicized. So there needs to be, you know, an introspection. We need to go back. We need to look at the structure of our politics before we can actually get people to conform, even politicians. Now, Emma, you were talking about political party financing. It's quite interesting. You see, those business folks who give the money, they've gotten very sophisticated. They give to both sides, you see. So they don't really care who wins or who loses. They are not the ones who drive the violence. It is those who are going to be direct beneficiary of the perks of government, like sitting there as a minister, sitting there as an MP, your party being in power.
Right.
Those are the ones we need to work on because the financiers are businessmen. Businessmen, they diversify their portfolios. No, they balance the risk. They give to MPP, NDC, whoever wins, they shake hands, and then they get their business and they go.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, that is what it is now. So I would still go back, you know, in rounding up to what Ufo said. You know, at the time people were, you know, laughing, you know, they were chiding, they were kind of pulling. Ufo says that there's a problem with our politics, the way the system has been structured. Can we take a look at it and make sure that we take out that winner takes all, make it possible for people from different political parties, as you have in the United Kingdom, as we have in France, as we have in the United States, in these advanced economies. You do not have to wait for 4 years before your party can also participate in governance. In between there, once you have Trump as president, you have Hatchford as governor of New York. She's a Democrat. And Trump was pushing for a Republican to be mayor of New York City. And then Mamdani won, a Democrat, Democratic Socialist. That is what you do. It takes away that, you know, redness, if I may put it that way, from the politics. And once that goes away, you realize that people's behaviors will start moderating to a very large extent.
Okay. Let's take the conversation back to Galamsey, right?
Yes,
and let's situate it. Let's even bring it home and create a better picture. So two communities, Kidium and then Bompata.
Bompata, yes.
Asante Achim South Municipality. So yesterday, our colleague, Nanaya Ojima, brought our attention to a protest in that community, Bompata, where they suspect that a company called BB Brothers had been granted a mining lease and had started prospecting.
Yeah.
And the residents in the community, cladded in red, decided that we don't care whether it is a legitimate mining lease or not. We just do not want mining in our community. It's very interesting. One would have thought that for the fight against illegal mining, it will be a consensus. But Shidium has taught us some different lessons, right? That is really not a consensus. That, well, the menace is a menace, but we don't care. Some people are excited about it. But look at Bompata. What's so special? Do you know that community in the Ashanti region? You don't know to know. I almost think that you know everywhere in Ghana. I almost think everywhere in Ghana. But, I mean, Mr. Money, how does this... It's quite interesting, right? That the residents say we don't care.
Yeah.
That you have
a mining lease.
We don't want the mining in our community, and they are bent on ensuring that they will not allow it.
Positive defiance at its highest. Positive defiance epitomized. Positive defiance exemplified. So this should serve as a lesson to other communities. There's a Malian proverb which says, one finger cannot wash the face. You take collectively all the fingers to wash the face. So one community, it will take one community to win the fight against galamsey. It will be the collective effort of other communities, backed, of course, by officialdom, to win the fight against galamsey. You know, we had been enveloped in a storminess of hopelessness when it comes to galamsey. But when NIMOS came, I think there was some light flickering at the end of the tunnel until we saw what happened at Fidium. What happened at Fidium is striking cause of, convulsion, cause of anger, of fury. And the dominant narrative shapes around two MPs, Colin Dowda and Honorable
Ebenezer Ado, I think.
Ado, yeah, Ebenezer Ado. And we are happy that the Speaker of Parliament has taken a definitive stand, robust stand, that the legal department and the clerk should liaise with the police so that they will deal surgically with this issue. We hope that this is not a mere rhetoric.
He has since been arraigned. Yesterday he was arraigned and then also granted a bail of 150,000 Ghana cedis. That's the latest update.
Yeah, and John Maxwell teaches us that behavior, the librarian of the past, the speaker of the present, and the prophet of the future. Ghanaians hold muscle memory of what happened on the midnight of 7th January 2021.
Yeah.
During the election of Speaker Bagbin. You saw the ugly spectacle, the misbehavior, dishonorable behavior of people who were the tags of honorables. Nothing happened after that. No one was prosecuted, and life resumed as usual. Back to 2025, this is January, during the vetting of Okujato and Honorable Akando, we all saw the flipping of chairs, destruction of state property by people who are supposed to model the way in terms of civility and gentility. 4 were suspended, and nothing has happened since then. Malcolm X teaches us that the media are the most powerful entity on earth. So we need to leverage the power we wield to name and shame people who take this nation for granted, who think they can do whatever they like because they will get away with the law.
I'll now go to Dr. Sasanti Kujo. Why? Because we've also seen mining companies giving very legitimate mining leases they have mined sustainably, at least the best of my knowledge. I've not seen NIMES going to new mods to say that they were going to shut them down or anything. Goldfield.
Golden Star Resources,
Adamus.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Sasanti, are we able to find a balance? How communities can say, no, we don't want mining? But I want to quote the EPA boss when the president met with their CSOs. And she was asked a question, Master Lagbaba asked her, but what's your take on mining in forest reserves? She said, I think that there is mineral over there. And if we can be provided with the adequate resources for us to mine sustainably, we cannot go hungry when we have money down there. So if genuinely we can mine, for communities like Bompata who are helping that well because of all, they cite the lead, the mercury, the cyanide, and all of that, which they have been reading in the news and hearing in the news. In fact, UNICEF now even paints a more gloomy picture that 2 out of each child, if you test them, you would find some lead or some sort of acidic substance in their body. If you take 2 kids in Ghana here and you did a test on them, so it's very scary. And these are the reasons why they do not want. But of course, there are companies that are mining sustainably, are they not?
There are a lot.
No,
okay.
A lot, yeah.
So, Dr. Sasanti, whilst we're encouraging communities to fight back, what does it look for? Tell me how it looks for you.
For me, and from where I sit, I believe that there is one thing that is missing: stakeholder engagement. Now you are seeing Bompata people giving you this example. We have not brought them into the equation for hear them as to the way forward. I am looking forward to communities saying that, Mr. President, Mr. Government, we want to come over. Let's all sit down and then we'll find a way out. Remember, there is always a way out to any problem. But what we fail to do is to think and to find a way out. See, people are talking about, state of emergency. People are talking about how do you reclaim the destroyed lands. People are talking about preservation of forests and the rest of them. There are still, experts in all these areas. We have failed to put them together for them to provide to us solution. Once we get that, we'll be able to deal with this problem. Because then Bompata people will not tell you that, yes, we are going to stop this, even though you have a legitimate license to operate here, we don't want. Then you are not going to also see people that who are saying that we need state of emergency. And you ask yourself, if that one is declared, would it be the only solution? Would it end galamsey? So when we put all together, and then there's a political will to implement what the stakeholders have said, it will end the story. Because look, if you go to Peru, the Latin American experience, what people do is that if you want to mine, you go to the communities and then engage with opinion leaders, the youth, and all those who matter. They will tell you how mining is done and how you ought to follow. Get your resource persons, a number of them from the community. Make sure that you do ABC. In other words, get the basis right. Once you do that, then they will shepherd the process, protect the system, and there's no problem. Why is our country refusing to learn from this rich experience of people who have gone through all this? People will be struggling to make their farms over the years, cocoa farms. If you know how long it takes until recently to, develop a cocoa farm, yes. And when they finish, then you see people going there with a document that, yes, I have a concession here. Obviously, it's your farm. I'm coming to work on that and all that. What happens to the person's livelihood? But because you have not factored the person into the discussion of all these things at the initial stages, then it becomes a problem. When we get all those people, the chiefs, the youth, the opinion leaders together, I tell you, we will find a solution. But if we begin to scratch the face of the problem by saying that, state of emergency, then the injurious substances in the water, we have not consulted the water scientists. Then the holes that we have left on the ground, which are death traps, will continue to exist without inviting the soil scientists and the rest of them. I'm afraid we'll be losing the fight. So the only way out is that get all the stakeholders together and let them give us solutions, and then government should go ahead and implement them. I'm sure we'll be there. Imagine if you get any community saying that the youth are prepared, that they said, government want to sit down with you. We are here. We know the problem. We know how it can be done. And they sit down and then they talk with government plus other experts. Are we not sure we will arrive at the solution?
Question for us also answer. Mr. Sammy Crab, so I'll take your comment on this, but I as well know that you have an appetite for the NPP chairman seat. Is that the case? And tell me how you're gearing up for that, especially because you have had to go on a sudden break and returning. Internally, how is it looking?
Well, it's looking okay. We've got our structures in place. And because of this top-down issue, it's made everybody go a little quiet. And that's where we are now. But we've got every structure in place, and we are just waiting for the presidential primaries to be over so that we go back onto the field.
Has the party not evolved since 2016 or since the time that you had to experience your suspension? Has the party not evolved much at all? Nothing has changed?
Well, I don't understand what you mean by the party evolving.
I recall that you made a comment that the NPP lacks leadership. When something evolves, it doesn't necessarily evolve positively, right? Maybe my question is, has the party not changed significantly? And how would it impact your appetite for the chairmanship race?
Oh, no, I have been part of the party since that period. So I've evolved with the party, if that's what you mean. And definitely we have issues. And I've always not shied away from the fact that we do not have the right leadership in place at this time. And that I trace to what happened in 2015 when there was an attack on our constitution, which really brought about this apathy and well-meaning people not willing to step up, and be elected. Therefore, we have all these charlatans coming through. And then, messing things up for us. People without courage, people who go in for reasons other than the love for the party, and So that is why I'm running for chairman, to make sure that we get all those things reserved. And then we open the way, we resolve the issues, and then allow people of character to come and fill the political space.
But currently, what's wrong with the party? If you become chairman, what difference would we see?
Oh, basically, I think that, as usual, I'm going to go back to structure. It is the party itself. I want to look at what makes someone want to follow a political party. I mean, what makes someone emotionally connect to a political party. So we need to look at those pillars that the party has been built on. Development in freedom. If we create a space for people to belong, for minorities to feel or perceive that they are welcome in the NPP, for minority views to be accepted, for tolerance. If we re-engineer the party so that people who work for the party do not think that when we get into power, they are not allowed to participate in governance of a sort. So basically, these are some of the things that I think that we need to take a look at, and I want to tackle those things when I become chairman of the party.
We'll probably will get into it. We'll probably will get into it after the presidential primaries as well in January. But thank you so much for making time, Kujo. Our time is up. Thank you so much for making time joining us all the way from the UK. Did you have a question? But
no, I don't have a question.
Okay.
I was only going to say that the mining company, like many other companies in Ghana, have bad strategies when it comes to community entry. They went to dig the holes without anybody's permission. They never went to the community to meet the community to say, we are BB brothers, we've been given permit to come and mine, and therefore this is our schedule, and we need you to do that. You get the buy-in of the community. But the mining companies or many companies are not hiring the right people. So look, I went to a community, we're chasing a story. The relationship between someone called the community liaison and the community, I said, no, this is a bad person. If I were the manager, I was like, okay.
The community liaison, are they from the community or somebody from outside?
This isn't.
Okay.
But the relationship, even if you are from outside, if you take me into a community I'm not even from, the way I relate to the people will be different. So companies should avert their minds to that. That is critical to the operations. You need to get communities to buy into what you do. You don't just get up and go and dig holes in people's farms. And then when they rise up, you complain. So they did it. And I heard that mining leases were going to be done in collaboration with the chiefs of the area. What happened to that? Anyway, this opens up for us to have a more long.
Let me check about the point Sami Crab made about the need to elect people of character. I think this should be the benchmark for all the parties. But character is everything.
Right.
Character and leadership are intrinsically linked. Has been goes out to say that leadership is character. And the political parties are the building blocks of democracy. So if you elect people of rotten character into the parties, ultimately our democracy will also be rotten.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist. You find him at the University of Ghana. And as well, we're joined by Suleiman Abrahima, Executive Director. But earlier we had him, but unfortunately we didn't get him. Executive Director for Media Foundation. Afil Moni, former GJ President. Of course, Sami Crab, former second Vice Chair of the NPP.
I wanted to be chairman on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and that's how we wrap up the news review. There's more coming up. Plus, stay on and hear how much of maize and rice we've imported into this country compared to how much of maize is going waste on people's warehouses here in Ghana. Stay on for that conversation.